Alright everybody, hello and welcome as always. I'm Sean and this is In The Mixer, episode 111. All the ones in this one of our FC Isle of Man save. I hope you're having a wonderful start to the week. Happy Monday, wherever in the world you're watching from. Happy whatever day in the week it is. If you watch these on your weekend, the next day, 6 months down the track via the playlist, wherever in the world you are, I hope you're having a great day. This is my favourite episode type because it's the start of a new season. We've got a shitload of stuff to review and go through. We've got tactical tweaks, new players, exciting things happening in and around the club in terms of like expansion and that sort of stuff. And just at the start of this season, you're always so optimistic about what it's going to hold for you. It's just a great time to be getting a save started. We have a shitload of stuff to go through, so we're going to jump straight in now. So, full disclosure, as you guys can see, I have played one game already. We'll get to that part in a moment. I thought we would do the first home game of the season this time around, just as something different, because I thought our stadium was actually going to be ready. As you guys can see, the new stadium is not ready until the start of next season, so that's an error on my part. You haven't missed anything massive. We'll go through those results. Now, the first thing that we should probably go through are our transfers, which I'll get to in a second. We spoke about last week that the club had a variety of different needs that we kind of needed to address. We needed more English talent, because if we do ever get like European football or anything like that, we need homegrown players. We need players that have trained in England and are of English nationality. And because it's me, and I know who I am and I'm not trying to change, I knew we were going to try and bring in wonder kid talent as well. I think at various points last season we had 3 or 4, and some players have gone out, some players have come in, a whole bunch of different changes that we've kind of gone through, but we are in a really excellent spot in terms of potential and building towards having a core group of players for the next 3 or 4 seasons. So with that in mind, it's time to go through our transfers, and I know immediately jumping out at you is this figure here, £293 million spent, all of that cash that I've just been throwing around the place. I haven't actually spent that much up front. Effectively, a lot of that is debt that we're going to continue to pay off over the next 3 years. So it's not £293 million that I've had this season, it's structured deals to eventually get us to that stage. I've actually only spent up front about £50 million. Does that make it any better? I'm not entirely sure. But when you see some of the players we've brought in, you'll understand why. If you're going to buy English talent, if you're going to buy young English talent, you kind of have to pay a premium. Before we get to that, we will go through the players that have left, because there are quite a few that we've actually passed on. The big one, the one that hurts the most, Lionel Altamiranda. Unfortunately, bigger sides were just interested in him after his fantastic season for us last year. Ended up with 43 goals and 78 appearances. He was the top scorer in the championship the season we got promoted. He was runner-up in the Golden Boot in the Premier League, our first season in the division last year. As soon as teams started bidding on him, and it wasn't who I thought, had like Man City and Man United and a few other teams interested in him, but it was teams like Everton, Newcastle, Huddersfield bid on him about 10 different times. That eventually started putting bids in. His head got turned, and eventually Newcastle paid £25 million, his release clause, to actually bring him across. He's already starting for them. He's already doing quite well. It's sad to see him go, but like once a player's head's turned, there's very little that you can actually do. And one of the things that I've kind of been frustrated with him is that he's excellent except for his finishing, only 13. I thought maybe we could improve that in the market and bring someone in who's a little bit more clinical, a little bit more classy in terms of their finishing ability. But a wonderful servant for us. It's sad to see him go. We, of course, thank him for his services and wish him all the best at Newcastle, unless he's playing against us, and then he can go to hell. The other one's left, Abubakar Kamara. Now, he's a player that did have greater finishing quality, but last season just really couldn't score. 19 goals and 52 appearances all up. We signed him, I think, our second season in the championship in January, and he did quite well getting us goals to push us up the table. But in reality, I think the Premier League is a level a little bit too far beyond him. He's gone to Malmo. Malmo paid his £10 million value, which is fantastic for us to bring him across, and he's already had 3 appearances and 1 goal for them in the early part of the season. Ronnie Senna has moved on. Now, this one was one that I kind of debated about. Effectively, we wanted to try and transition towards more English talent, and that's why Ronnie Senna has gone. We only had him for 1 season after picking him up from Ajax, £4 million, and we made a profit, £7.25 million to Leeds. Ideally, I probably shouldn't have sold him to a Premier Division rival, but they were willing to match what we wanted for him, so we've let him move on as well. The next one stings quite a bit. Franz Wolf has moved on. He's gone to play with Portsmouth down in the Championship. He's thankfully already playing for them as well. We discussed it briefly towards the end of last week. I've loved the Wolf. I think he's so far been the best player that we've had throughout the course of the series. He was magnificent in League One. He was magnificent in the Championship, but he really just hit his ceiling in the Premier Division. And while 3-star current ability is serviceable, it's not where we want to be, which is eventually like European places, Champions League football, challenging for the Champions League. So all good things must come to an end, and unfortunately for the Wolf, it was time to actually pass him on and give him the opportunity to play first-team football elsewhere. Vasco Vargas has gone to Chelsea randomly. I put him on the transfer list because he's not a player that we've ever used. We sent him out on loan last season to Hanover, never made a first-team appearance, but we've made a tidy little profit on him, and Chelsea have picked him up to put in their under-23s for the next 15 years, I guess, as he goes out on loan to a variety of different places. Nondiel Londono is a player that we picked up after he had a really impressive under-20 World Cup with Colombia. He and Rosero, who played on the other wing, never really got going, never really hit top stride, never got themselves into a good enough form to kind of warrant selection. The wings was a place that we really struggled last season to get consistent performances out of. In the end, he made 26 appearances and scored 3 goals in a relatively injury-hit campaign. £2 million represents return on investment for what we paid for him, £1 million up front from Medellin. And we, of course, probably could have got more, but I think for some of these players, it was just about getting them off the books to try and keep our squad a tight, compact unit of 22 rather than getting a bit too bloated or looking for loans or anything crazy like that. Similar story for Goran Petrovic. He turned 21 years of age, which means he's probably not going to hit this potential ability that you can see here. Probably hit his limit at 3 stars. He was fantastic when he played for us. Again, another player that really struggled with injuries. Scored a couple of cracking free kicks despite not having the greatest free kick rating of anyone. Eventually made 10 starting appearances and scored 2 goals in that time. He was a backup central attacking midfielder. There are other options on the market, which is why we eventually passed him on to Fulham for £2 million. And another tidy little profit. We only paid $400k for him when we picked him up from Mansfield earlier last season. Rosero, we already briefly discussed. He's moved on as well. He's gone down to Millwall. In the Championship as well, an inverted winger on the right-hand side. Just, again, never really comfortable at a Premier Division level. Scored a couple of good goals. Scored an absolute screamer for goal of the season against Arsenal in the FA Cup. But 2 goals from 23 appearances. Only a couple of assists in that time as well. We really need a little bit more out of our wings, which is why he makes the move. Lucas Fessler. Now, this one's a little bit more puzzling. I probably shouldn't have done this in retrospect, but his head was turned once FC Bayern Munich came in and put a bid on him. That he was pretty much decided that he was going to go there regardless. So I only sold him for £1.8 million. Probably could have done a little bit better, but he kept pissing me off just from random little things that he would do. He's now out on loan at Kaiserslautern, so they've sent him back down a division as well. This might be one that I come to regret in time if he turns into like an absolute world beater and a star, but I felt it had to be done. This one we did take a loss on. We paid £4 million to bring him across from Stuttgart a year ago. Only 1.8 on the way out, but there were better options on the right-hand side of midfield. And as one of the recurring themes that you'll see, English talent available, so that kind of came into it as well. Connor Carden's moved on to Swansea. You guys never really saw him. Nikica Ancic, you never really saw. He's moved to Osijek over in Serbia. Actually, they're in Serbia? In Croatia. Apologies to any Serbian or Croatian fans watching. Sean Dixon, the Australian backup right back we had, has moved to Melbourne Victory, and Lars Torp has moved to AC Milan. A player that never really got comfortable. We brought him in initially to be like a successor to Franz Wolf. Playing as that deep line playmaker on defend. He just was never comfortable in the role, never really got a good run of football together. We purchased him, I think, when he was about 15 and then had to wait a few seasons for him to arrive. When you do that, you do inherently take on a little bit of risk that they may not eventually get to that player, that their potential ability insists that they might be. But he moves on relatively cheap. Again, I think I've taken a hit on this one. We paid £1 million for him to bring him across. Milan have paid $650k, but it was just an opportunity for him to, one, go and play some football and us to get him off the books effectively. Tyrone Taylor, another fantastic player for us, was wonderful at a League One level, wonderful at a Championship level as a squad player and a homegrown club player. But at 24 years of age, he's not going to get any better. We want to start pushing to top half football, to maybe European football, to maybe challenging for the Premier Division title. And these are the sort of players that just aren't really at that level as yet. So he's moved on to Middlesbrough. He'll play in the Championship. We got a decent little amount for him. And after 6 seasons at the club, he has been a fantastic servant as well. Marcus Diamoda moves on. You didn't really ever see him. Eden Hadzovic, you didn't really see. Pearson, you didn't really see. Viscanning was our backup goalkeeper. Goodlife has moved on to Barnsley for no money at all. And then we've got a couple other young players, which I'll get to in a moment, that we have sent out on loan. Most of these are English talent that we just want to try and continue their development elsewhere because we can't give them games at the moment. Now, we get to the really exciting stuff, the really good bit. We switch across to the players that have come in. I'm going to sort these by transfer fee, and we'll start at the base. Nikica Ancic, you might have noticed, was one of the players that went out. We brought him in, and he couldn't get settled. So if after a month he's already given up, I thought, let's just send him on. It's rare that you'll see a player come in and go out during the same period, but I think it was best for all parties that we just pass him on before he became an issue and impacted our squad morale too much. Johnny Hayes is a player that we purchased about 3 seasons ago and have been waiting to turn 18. He's come from Rangers over in Scotland. He'll be a backup striking option, still only 18 years of age. Wonderful face pack, as always. Link in the description to all of Chilled Moose's fantastic work. Go and check that out and support her on Patreon, because I support her on Patreon. She does that good a level of quality and work and all that other great stuff. But he looks very tidy. An excellent finisher. We're probably going to try and use him as a pressing forward, potentially a complete forward. You'll see why in a minute. But at 18, he's got a high ceiling. We haven't paid very much for him either. And hopefully he will get his opportunity in cup competitions, during rotations, international call-ups, all that sort of stuff to continue his development. And Johnny Hayes is just a wonderful name for a striker. Mike Hayward, who we picked up from West Brom for £4 million, is a young 17-year-old right back. He's actually already gone out on loan to Chesterfield, which is where he currently sits. You can see here, 5-star potential ability, and he's English, and he's 17. We did mention briefly that we wanted to kind of go and review West Brom and Wolves and West Ham, and you'll see a couple of different names from each of those clubs, the sides that got relegated from the Premier Division last year, to see what young English talent they might have coming through, and that has kind of driven a few of the different people that you'll see here, Mike Hayward being the first of those. Jose Cedron, a right back that we've picked up, a wonder kid right back. And we look at both his potential ability and even his current ability to an extent. He has been an absolute steal. Picked him up from Independiente, where he's already made 57 appearances at 20 years of age. Under 20 international for Argentina. I think he's finally going to be that like elite level right back that we need. If he has a good season, I don't think there's any reason we can't see him move to like 4-star, 4.5-star current ability. And at 20, relatively low risk, we can turn around and probably get a profit for him in the next few seasons for the $5.25 million that we've spent. That did pay out his release clause as well. The first one, Lee Clark. This is the first of the English talent that we've tried to bring across. Watford won the championship last season at an absolute canter. He didn't play that much, but he was always a very highly touted prospect and was actually in their first team squad a couple of different times, but never came off the bench. He will be a backup in our lineup. I want to try and get him working towards being like a proper deep-lying playmaker. Got good tackling, got a lot of the good key attributes that we'd want. Wonderful teamwork, positioning, work rate for someone so young. Wonderful natural fitness as well. Left-footed player, which I always love that balance of left-footed and right-footed players playing together across the park. He looks to be one for the future, but already 2.5-star current ability and 5-star potential at 18. I'm hopeful that with 2 or 3 seasons, he will actually hit that level and become a very talented prospect. Another Brazilian who's joined the ranks, Carlos Andre, who we've picked up from Sao Paulo. 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. We struggled to get a wing-back on defend. We've had quite a few complete wing-backs come through. No one's really nailed down the full-back spots at a Premier Division level. I'm hopeful that him coming in will solve some of the issues we've had on that side. Despite being only 18 years of age, he has got under 20 caps. He has played for the Sao Paulo first team a few times as well. I think he's a wonderful get. I'm very excited to have him, and hopefully he will nail down that number 3 shirt and left-back starting spot for the rest of the year. Now is where you can see there's a bit of a spike. So we've jumped from £5 million to 15 for the last 2, and now up to £25 million. These are the players that we've brought in that are mostly English talent, but talent that we would expect to be at the club for the next 4 or 5 seasons. And as such, we're going to pay transfer fees for them for that period. So I think this one was £10 million with $15 million over the next 3 years. But Scott Phillips has joined from relegated Wolves. He's a complete forward on attack, which I absolutely love. It is a fantastic playing role if you get a player that can do that. Once we knew that we were going to lose Alta Miranda, we started to look around for young English talent that potentially wasn't playing as much as they should have been at their club. You can see last couple of years he's made it 7 appearances for Wolves over the 3 years he was there after starting his career at Fulham. Already 3.5-star current ability, nearly 5-star potential. I could see very quickly, if he hits the ground running, turning into a wonder kid player. Again, he doesn't necessarily have the finishing that I want at the moment. He's on a specialist training regime to improve his shooting. But dribbling of 17 is magnificent. 18 heading is magnificent. A lot of great mental attributes, a lot of great physical attributes as well. At 19 years of age, he's still got that ceiling as well to improve. And full disclosure, he got a goal on his debut, which was a wonderful finish. So I think he's going to be one that we have to keep an eye on as potentially a superstar striker. But there are a few others on the market. We're only looking at English talent right now. There are quite a few different Brazilian wonder kids, Uruguayan players, South American strikers may come into this in January or later in the season. We'll see how it plays out. But very excited to have Scott Phillips leading the line up top. Paul Brady, similarly, we've played £25 million for $10 million up front. He will be a backup goalkeeper. He is already an under-19 international. I think he's been called up to the under-20 squad, but hasn't been capped as yet. Only 17 years of age. We've picked him up from Everton, but we did have to pay quite a bit for him. We need homegrown talent. In 3 years, he would qualify as a 20-year-old player, as a homegrown club player, which we desperately need. And if he's going to be a backup goalkeeper, we might as well have one that's English and quality and has room to improve if we need to call upon him. I'm happy with Timo Kubis. I think he's been absolutely immense for us the last few seasons. I want to keep him around, but if we have a backup, it's better that they count towards a homegrown club player, which is why we've paid what we have for him. 2-star current ability, 5-star potential. He's got plenty of time left to succeed, and he will get his opportunity in cup competitions, international call-ups, whatever else as well. But he comes in as a backup goalkeeper, albeit a very expensive young English backup goalkeeper. Jamie Warburton is a player that I have chased for about 2 seasons. I think he came through at Norwich as a 15-year-old player. He's still only 17. We've tried to bring him in quite a few times because he is a left-sided centre-back, left-footed, and plays as a stopper, which is the perfect foil for George Escobar. Also English, which is why we've paid a little bit more from him than we probably should, £30 million, 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. I think he's going to be magnificent, and I'm actually going to play him this year. I think we're going to start him and try and turn him into like the stalwart wonder kid that patrols our back line for the next 5 seasons. You might be wondering why I'm saying 5 seasons and not 15. Effectively, in my brain, as soon as someone turns 22, like they're pretty much 35 and they must move on. But we'll see what happens. My mind has been changed before. It could get changed again. The first of 2 players we picked up from relegated West Ham, David Cambridge, 18-year-old central midfielder. He's a box-to-box by trade. I'm trying to get him to work as a Messiah. He will likely be a backup for Lua Barbosa in midfield, but a 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. He looks excellent. Already has 1 appearance off the bench for us this season and did quite well. In the limited time he was given, 16 passing, jumps out immediately. A few good mental attributes, including 17 work rate. Physically needs a little bit of work, but he's only young. It will continue to come for him in time. And as a backup player, we're going to continue to give him opportunities to grow through substitute appearances, cup appearances, all that sort of great stuff. Now, this is where I really started splashing the cash a little bit. Elliott Blue has joined from Tottenham. You can see he is an advanced forward by trade, but he can also play as a winger on support on the left-hand side. He is a wonder kid, which makes me think, why have we only paid £30 million for him? I would have thought that would be way more. And he's English, only 19 years of age, already at 3.5-star current ability. Potential ability 4.5-star, I could see very quickly if he gets a good start to the season, which he has already scored on his debut, very quickly become like a 4-star current ability player with 5-star potential. And you can see here his training spikes are already kind of flying up through the roof. He's got wonderful technique, good dribbling ability, crossing maybe needs a little bit of work, but his off-the-ball movement's fantastic, his teamwork's fantastic, his physical attributes are fantastic for someone at 19 years of age. I think he's going to be fantastic for us, and he adds to that English core that we're trying to develop as well. The second and final player from West Ham, Gary Leicester, joins in midfield. Now, one of the positions that we've been not struggling to fill, but has been difficult to fill, is that deep line playmaker on defend that I want anchoring our midfield and being that pivot. And Gary Leicester was a player that played a couple of times last season for West Ham. You see he's already a wonder kid, 3-star current ability, 5-star potential. Either footed, he doesn't really care what side he plays on. Very good technique and tackling attributes, very good first touch. Wonderful mental attributes, 17 bravery, 16 teamwork, vision work rate also excellent, and physically very, very good. Only his jumping reach, which isn't particularly important, below double figures. We paid a fair bit to bring him in, but I think he's the type of player that could anchor our midfield for the next 5-10 years. Also capped at under 20 level, all these English players have got youth international caps. If we give him games, if he continues to develop, I could definitely see him becoming a full England international in the future. He'll start, he'll anchor our midfield, and we're going to give him a great platform to continue his growth and development. And the last one, the one that I really broke the bank on, £70 million, 10 million I think, or 20 million up front with 50 over the next 3 years. Neal Peacock, we've brought him across from Chelsea because he looks to be an absolute star. Also a wonder kid, 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. We've made that adjustment back to wingers on either side. Blore on one side as a winger on support, Peacock on the other as a winger on support. Both English talents, both in their teenage years, both on long-term contracts, both with wonderful attributes, both already wonder kids. It's a lot to pay, but it makes sense to me. He was never going to play at Chelsea because they just have one of the best sides in the division at the moment. But maybe we can give him that platform to perform, to succeed, to get better, and continue to grow as a player. Technique-wise, he has a little bit of ability, like a lot of different 12s, 13s here, but really want to see them get up towards like 14s, 15s. A couple of wonderful technical attributes, 17 teamwork, 15 work rate, jump out at you immediately. 15 aggression is an interesting one for a winger, we'll see how that goes. But physically, 16 acceleration, 17 agility, 17 pace. Not scheduled to turn 19 until next season, so he's got plenty of development ahead of him. And it might be one of those ones where in time, as we look at it, £70 million actually kind of looks as a little bit of a steal because we get a good 10 years out of him as a wonderful player marauding down that right wing. So it is a lot. It is a lot of money. I'm not immune to that, but our finances are still relatively good. This big drop off that you can see is when we spent the majority of that fund. We had at one point £118 million in the bank, and so far, due to player sales, due to additional revenue that's come in, we have increased that back up to £46.35 million. Current overall balance of £50 million in the bank, with a new stadium on the way. With, as you guys can see here, improved training facilities, improved youth facilities due to come in the next month or so. We've still got transfer budget remaining, £27 million. We've still got plenty of wage budget remaining as well. There is a whole bunch of different wonderful things coming up in the future that we get to work towards. Now, as far as the lineups are concerned, I kind of did speak about who I thought was going to be a backup, who I thought was going to start. We might as well go through the starting lineup as well, just as we look as our tactic here. Kubis will be in goal for the majority of the time. I'm really happy with Tim Kubis. I think he's been fantastic for us. Carlos Andre and Cedron will play as the wingers, the wingbacks, the new players that come across. I really want wingbacks on defend as their key role. I think that's important for us. We're working Warburton and Escobar to be ball-playing defenders, but you can see very easily I can switch them just to be central defenders in their preferred roles if that's what we need or if that's what we think is best for the side. But for the time being, we'll continue working with ball-playing defenders and hopefully they'll get used to those roles. They do have time on their side. Leicester are in midfield alongside Barbosa. You'll notice now that we've moved Escobar to be a covering defender. I've moved the deep line playmaker to the same side, so there's that same distance between the lines. And for Warburton, because Barbosa plays a little bit higher up the pitch, I'd like him to be a bit more aggressive, pushing into that space as the stopper. Aguirre will be massive for us this season. With the departure of Alton Miranda, a lot's going to fall on him to actually create opportunities for what is an English front three. Bloor on the left wing, Peacock on the right, and Phillips leading the line up top, all comfortable in their roles. We might actually adjust Bloor to be a winger on support, because I think he was a winger on attack at some point. That's why we had him set to that. But the majority of the players comfortable in their positions, comfortable in their roles that we're asking them to do. Only a couple of different spots where we're playing them in their preferred role, but just asking them to do something slightly different from what they're used to, which will, of course, come with time as well. It does also mean we can play Phillips as a complete forward. And the big part that I want everyone to focus on are these role abilities that we're looking at here. Yes, there's a bit more development for Warburton and Andre, but last season we had players starting that were like 2-star current ability in that role. And I think that hurt us after a while. This front four, all 3.5-star current ability, if they get off to a good start this season, if they hit the ground running, if they're in decent form, I could very quickly see us having like a front four, all on 4-star roll ability and 4-star current ability, which, as you guys know, is how you actually build a club, how you build a team, how you push towards Champions League qualification. There are a couple of players that will drop out and become squad players this year. Sigurdsson's one, Ben Shop's one. Jimmy Winter actually played quite a bit last season. And Greisinger filled in quite a bit as well. And Onye we picked up in January. And to be honest, he did fine. I think it was just unfortunate for him that he's a complete wingback or a wingback on attack. And once Andre came on the market and is already a little bit more of a finished article, it was easy to kind of make that transition to a spade Brazilian wonder kid. They're great. They're always working and always fantastic. For where we're at, I'm incredibly happy. I think we are going to still use our attacking structure as our default. We want to go out and try and outscore teams, but we do still have our positive kind of possession-based mentality and our cautious mentality if we ever get like tough away draws in the FA Cup. If we eventually get to a point where we have away draws in the Champions League, this might be something that we try and integrate a little bit more. And we might actually alter and change this a little bit to be like a fluid counter-attacking style rather than the aisle squeeze that we're currently using for all of our shapes and formations. Now, I did mention this lineup previously played one game early this season, and it would have been a great one to show you. I don't know why I didn't. We beat Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield. A wonderful performance from everybody. They took an early goal through Alejandro Rodriguez. Scott Phillips scored in his debut. A wonderful, wonderful strike. I think it was a powerful header, kind of glancing near post beyond the on-rushing keeper. And then Elliott Blue with the sealer on 73 minutes. A wonderful strike from him. And you can see quite a few of the players actually did very well, getting over 6.9, 6.8s for their match ratings. Still a little bit of improvement in there as well, but I was very, very happy with an opening day performance like that, away from home, at a tough venue, against a very good Liverpool side. And it's put us in a really good position. We will today, in this episode, play against Southampton as well. Unfortunately, not at the FC Isle of Man Stadium. It's still at the DW Stadium. We're still renting from Wigan, but it is a great opportunity to get 6 points to start the season, and potentially, as we look forward to like the Blackburn game coming up, Bournemouth coming up, who did very well last season, it must be said, but now have European and Europa League football to contend with this season as well. We may actually get off to a really good start this Premier League season. Famous last words, of course. Watch as we now get beaten 3-0 by Southampton. But magic of editing, we're going to jump forward and look at the two lineups for the Southampton game now. All right, so we have just run through our lineup, but I will go through it just for, posterity's sake. We've got Kubas, of course, in goal, Warburton and Escobar as the central defensive partnership, Carlos Andre at left wing back, Jose Cedron at right wing back, Leicester anchoring midfield alongside Barbosa as the Messiah, Aguirre leading the... I nearly said leading the line, not leading the line, leading the creativity, playing as our advanced playmaker on attack. He has got the highest average rating as our best player against Liverpool. Blore on the left wing, Peacock on the right, and Phillips leading the line up top. That English front three, I'm pinning a lot of hopes on them, but I'm really happy with the squad. This is definitely the strongest overall lineup we've had at any point throughout the Saban series. I'm hopeful that we can follow on from our very good performance at Liverpool with a good performance today against Southampton. It is their first home game of the season, but as we know, anything can happen when you reload the game because form recalculates. Southampton still got a couple of players that are from the original database, real life players. Eduardo Quaresma is one who they picked up via Sporting Lisbon and then Nice in France and then Genoa, and he's been at Southampton. Actually, he's been at Southampton for a few years, so I think he might have been on loan at Nice and Genoa. 4-star current ability and potential, looks decent. 30 years of age now, he's getting towards the end of his career though. They've got Nathan Wood at right back from Middlesbrough. He looks solid but not spectacular. Again, 4-star current ability and potential. Been at Southampton for 3 seasons in the Premier Division. He looks alright, but nothing spectacular. And then for Ryan, midfield, who looks a little bit better. 31 years of age, starts at AZ Alkmaar. He's usually number 10. It looks like they're trying to play him a little bit deeper. He looks good though. Got very good technical attributes. He might be a quality player that we have to keep an eye on. They've got a couple of debutants as well. Hippolito on the left wing looks to be a solid prospect. But otherwise, it's a flat 4-4-2. It's mostly regen players, which always makes it a little bit more difficult, but I think we should be, if we play to the capabilities, if we play as well as we did against Liverpool, able to get a good result. Passionately, we're going to say, let's give the fans something to cheer. Nobody cares. So let's assertively tell everyone that we've got faith in them and see if we can give everyone a bit of a boost to continue what has been a good start of the season and potentially start the year with 6 points, which would be absolutely unheard of. Throwing now on the right-hand side for Southampton. First highlight of the game, Andre gets there first and plays it to Warburton, who plays a lovely little reverse pass to Leicester. Long ball forward, flicked on by Phillips, but Southampton are going to get the ball back in defence. Paredes flick on header, recovered by Carlos Andre, who sends Teddy Blore into the corner. Cut back towards Phillips near post, and he's got the second goal of the season on his second start. First goal that you guys have seen for the year as well. Gives us a 1-goal advantage in the opening 10 minutes. He cannot finish, but his heading was like 17 or 18 when we did the little preview for him. And that's just a ball in behind for a young player to kick and chase. We've all done that at a Sunday League level. Good ball front stick. Phillips with a wonderful header. Defender didn't even challenge. Keeper got nowhere near it. And I think we're starting to see how we can potentially unlock teams this season. Thrown here on the right though for Southampton, similar to where the last highlight started. And Carlos Andres won it back again. Aguirre bursts forward in midfield. He's got Phillips alongside him if he can get there. But he loses out on the tackle. Wood's going to recover. Clearance is poor. Peacock will recover on the edge of the area and play Aguirre in, who might have just been offside then. And it is indeed brought back for the offside decision. But good vision from Peacock, picking out the pass. Early doors though, the press looks good. We're putting good pressure on. We're winning the ball back in good areas. Wide free kick, Aguirre to take. Look for back post runners. And it's in from Peacock. First goal of the season for the English wonder kid we picked up from Chelsea. I can only check this one out in 3 dimensions. I'm not sure if it hits the deck or it looked like he was in a crowd of players. But he does very well, actually. Hippolito, who's on debut for Southampton, missed his header, and Peacock just powers that one beyond the goalkeeper into the far post for the 2-0 advantage. Things are starting off very nicely in the early part of the season for us. About 10 minutes remaining in the half. We're going to use our demand more shout just to give everyone hopefully some focus through to half-time. Looks like Gary Lester's pressured by that feedback. He'll get used to it in time. 2 minutes of additional time to be added on. We've got a highlight here, though. Ball forward from Southampton. Right back Wood is bombing on. Blore's on a yellow card and nearly went through him there. I thought that might be a yellow card challenge. Wood's gone forward though and gone the strike from the wide area. It didn't really look like challenging the keeper at any point. We're through injury time now. Half-time's called. We've had 7 shots, 6 on target, 54% possession. Southampton, 4 shots, 3 on target, 46% of the ball. We are going to passionately tell everybody, very pleased with your performance. Keep it going, lads. And as we always do, we'll give it 15 minutes. We'll have a look at form, fitness, yellow cards, all that sort of stuff and make some adjustments. But really, we just want to keep things going as they currently stand. All right, we're through the hour mark now. We're going to let this highlight play out and then look at subs. Good exchange there from Cedron and Leicester. Opening space up for Leicester to come forward. Looks for the switch out to the left wing to Blore, who's got a man to beat in Wood. Loses possession, but Wood's clearance is poor. Warburton recycles possession back into Carlos Andre. Dangerous crossfield ball in midfield there, but Leicester manages to get possession back and put Phillips into a great spot, and he finds the finish from the dead angle. Keeper came out to try and claim the pass, but he just goes around him, and then he didn't have much of an angle to work with, but it's a wonderful finish. Leicester did very well in that crossfield ball, and this is the weighted pass in behind that kills him. Phillips with a tremendous run. Keeper dives early, doesn't get there, and that is a fantastic finish, which means he's on a hat-trick on his home debut, I guess we could call it. We're going to hit pause there. Let's make our subs. Looking at average rating, and actually, you know what? More than average rating, this one, I think we're going to look at yellow cards. I don't want to risk going down to 10 men. So Jimmy Winter will come on the left wing. He can go as an inverted winger on that side. We might bring off Barbosa, which means it's a debut for David Cambridge. He's more suited to a box-to-box role. We might give him an opportunity in that just as we see this game out, just to keep everyone comfortable. And we'll tell them that we've got faith in both of them. I'm not going to risk making too many subs too early. Corner here, backstick towards Escobar, who gets the header in, but just over the crossbar. And we're going to use Old Faithful as well. I get creative shout after an hour, and I've used it and then immediately robbed myself of a highlight. Highlight here for Southampton from the corner. It's towards backstick, and Kubis was scrambling, but just over the crossbar. All right, we're into the last 10 minutes. We'll let this highlight play out and then look to make our last sub. Just based on, I think, fitness for this one. De Vries has gone past a few and gotten the strike away, just past far post, but wasn't moving particularly quickly. I think we would have recovered it. Last sub, Jimmy Winter hasn't played particularly well, but he only just came on, so I can't complain. Let's go by conditioning, and Peacock, he's scored a wonderful goal. He maybe will stay out on the pitch because I don't really have a specialist right winger on the bench at the moment. Maybe we'll give Cedron a bit of a spell, bring on Guillaume Benchop just to shore things up at right back there. And let's also go, I have faith in you, get out there and make a difference. Wide free kick from Maguire, backstick runner towards Escobar. If he had got it on target, the keeper was at 6s and 7s. I'm going to use our demand more shout here for the last 10 minutes. Highlight starts, Andre with the ball from the throw-in. Cambridge looks for the switch out towards Peacock. He gets the flick on header, and it wasn't miles away, to be completely honest. Keeper watched it go, though. It looked very confident. 3 minutes of additional time to be added on at the end of this one. I just want to keep a clean sheet at this point. Corner in from Aguirre is poor. Cambridge will reset on the left wing. Back into Warburton, who we want to try and get the ball away from because we don't need our centre-back going on mazy runs through midfield. And he's coughed up possession. They're 3v3 at the back here. They've sent Charles out on the right-hand side. He hasn't got much in the middle to work with. He goes to strike himself. Kubis got his angles correct and forces it over for the corner. Let's get this one away, boys. No need to concede. Warburton with a powerful, powerful header. Aguirre should recover, and he's got runners in the channel if we can find him. Said he puts Kubis under all sorts of pressure. I don't know why you would do that to your goalkeeper. Just hook it into touch yourself. Throw in here for Southampton late on. I want to keep this clean sheet. Let's not ruin it now. Cut back to Paredes. Benchop with a good header away. Now Peacock. Is there anything late going on here for Old Man? Peacock just puts it away. Puts it out into touch. Gets it away is what I should have said. Come on, boys. Don't do this to me now. Last 10 seconds of additional time. Benchop with a good tackle. Peacock looks to play it across to Phillips, and thankfully the referee calls full time. What a performance. A good 3-0 win to start the season. 12 shots, 8 on target, 53% of the ball. 10 shots, 6 on target, 47% possession for Southampton. Passionately, I'm going to say, very pleased with the result in your performance, boys. And you always run that risk when you reset a game, when you restart and reload, that your form might go out the window. But we've started the season with 2 very good performances. A 3-0 comprehensive performance against Southampton at home and a wonderful 2-1 victory at Anfield to start the season. Young FC Isle of Man shining against Southampton. Scott Phillips with his double gets the Man of the Match award. He's on 3 goals from 2 appearances to start the league season. And we might as well give him some praise. Passionately, superb front of goal last time out. If we get 20 goals out of him this year, we will be well and truly on our way. Now, looking forward a little bit, I think what we're going to do is jump forward to the games here against Norwich and Leeds. They're both at home. They're both on TV. And it will give us an opportunity to have played like 2 or 3 games off screen to kind of gauge where our form actually is in the early part of the season. And then we've got some really busy fixtures coming up. Like we've got Tottenham-Chelsea, which might be another episode. Man United-Man City, which might be another episode. Quite a few very interesting games to take place throughout the course of the week. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. That's the part that I appreciate the most. If you wanted to go that extra mile, be a bit of a super fan, continue to support the channel, you can drop a like on this video. It pleases that YouTube algorithm, gets our content higher up in search results when people look for FC Isle of Man or when people look for Football Manager content. Or you can subscribe to the channel to be kept up to date on all of our future videos. Links are just over there on that side. Now, a couple of different people have reached out on Twitter wanting a copy of the database that we're using for this one. If you'd like to play with this database, with this kit pack, with the logo pack, with anything like that, just drop me a note on Twitter. I'm more than happy to send that stuff your way. As always though, I've been Sean and I'll see you guys again in the mixer.